The Terran Exploration Fleet T-7 drifted silently through the dark edge of an uncharted star system. Its captain, Elena Ward, stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the main display. The fleet was not built for war, only 6 light cruisers and a handful of supply ships. But they were humanity's symbol of progress, the first to travel so far beyond known space. "Status?" Elena asked, her voice calm, engine stable. "No threats detected," replied her first officer, Commander Aiden. Then, almost on cue, the sensors began to flash red. "Unknown contacts," the sensor officer called out. "Massive energy signatures approaching fast." "Looks like warships," Elena's heart pounded. "Warships out here?" They hadn't expected to meet anyone this far from home. "Open hails," she ordered. "Let's see if they're friendly." A moment later, the view screen came alive. A tall, silver-skinned alien with glowing golden eyes appeared. He wore a long black coat with golden insignias, and his voice was cold and sharp. "I am Admiral Kalis of the Zorath Empire. You have trespassed into Imperial space. Power down your ships and surrender immediately." The bridge went silent. Aiden glanced at Elena, waiting for her decision. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for decades, but no one expected it to start with a demand for surrender. "This is Captain Elena Ward of the Terran Exploration Fleet," she replied firmly. "We mean no harm. We are explorers. We did not know this space was claimed." Kalis' expression did not change. "Ignorance is not an excuse. Your vessels are now property of the Empire. Comply or be destroyed." Elena's jaw tightened. "We will not surrender," she said at last. For a moment, Kalis seemed almost amused. Then his image vanished from the screen, replaced by a tactical map filled with red enemy markers. Dozens of Imperial cruisers and battleships closed in from every direction. "All ships, battle stations," Elena shouted. The Terran fleet turned to face the threat. Alarms echoed through the ship as gunners rushed to their posts. In space, the first salvo came from the Empire. Brilliant lances of plasma tore through the void. Shields flared, and 2 Terran escorts were badly damaged in the first strike. "Return fire," Aiden barked. Terran railguns answered, firing hypervelocity slugs that crossed the battlefield faster than light itself. The first shot punched straight through an Imperial cruiser, splitting it in half. The aliens had never seen kinetic weapons used at this scale. Kalis watched from the bridge of his flagship, his golden eyes narrowing. These humans were primitive by galactic standards, yet their weapons hit harder than expected. For the next 20 minutes, the void became a storm of light. The Terrans fought like cornered wolves, striking fast, using clever maneuvers and targeting weak points in the enemy formation. Several more Imperial ships were destroyed before they managed to tighten their blockade. "Shields failing," the engineer shouted. "We can't hold much longer." Elena made the hardest decision of her life. "Signal the fleet. Execute retreat protocol Sigma. Get us out of here." The surviving Terran ships began a desperate jump sequence, firing their last salvos to cover the retreat. Another 2 ships were lost before the FTL drives engaged. Then, with a flash of light, the Terran fleet was gone, leaving behind dozens of wrecks, both human and Imperial. Scattered across the star system, Kalis stood on the silent bridge of his flagship, staring at the empty space where the humans had been. The Empire had crushed rebellions, wiped out pirates, and ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. But never had a species resisted on first contact and survived. "Prepare a full report to the Imperial Senate," he said at last, his voice low, "and double the patrols on the frontier. These humans are not to be underestimated." Across the galaxy, rumors began to spread. A new species had appeared. A species that fought back. A species that had destroyed Imperial warships and escaped. And far away on Earth, Elena's battered fleet limped home. Humanity had just met the galaxy, and now the galaxy knew humanity existed. When Captain Elena Ward's fleet limped back to Sol, the entire planet seemed to stop. The Terran Exploration Fleet had been gone for almost 2 years. When they arrived, most of their ships were scarred, some were barely holding together, and thousands of crew members were missing. The story they brought back sent shockwaves through every human colony. Elena stood before the United Terran Council, her uniform torn, but her voice steady. "We were attacked without warning. The Zorath Empire demanded we surrender. When we refused, they tried to wipe us out. We fought back, but we barely escaped." The council chamber was silent. For decades, humanity had dreamed of peaceful first contact. They had imagined meeting wise alien civilizations, trading knowledge, learning from each other. Instead, the first aliens they met had tried to destroy them. "This cannot go unanswered," said Admiral Victor Harlan, the head of the Terran Defense Force. His voice was grim. "If we do nothing, the Empire will come again, and next time they will not let us escape." Some council members hesitated. Humanity had only a small fleet compared to what Elena described. The Empire had hundreds, maybe thousands of ships. How could Earth stand against that? But across the colonies, the people's voices were clear. No one wanted to bow down. No one wanted to surrender. The images of Elena's damaged ships played on every news channel. Children watched the footage of Terran railguns tearing through massive alien cruisers, and their parents whispered with pride. "They think we are weak," said one counselor. "They think we will kneel." But we are not weak. We are human. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not submit. Within hours, the Terran Defense Force declared a state of emergency. Shipyards on Mars, Luna, and Titan were put into full production. The colonies that had once competed with each other now worked together. Massive new warships were laid down, faster, stronger, and armed with improved weapons based on data from the battle. On Ceres, scientists analyzed fragments of destroyed Imperial ships. What they discovered shocked them. The Zorath used energy shields, plasma weapons, and FTL drives, yes, but their technology had not changed much in thousands of years. Humanity, on the other hand, was advancing faster every year. The engineers worked night and day, upgrading Terran railguns, building smarter drones, and creating new armor that could resist Imperial plasma fire. Meanwhile, across the stars, Admiral Kalis stood before the Imperial Senate. The Great Hall was filled with thousands of alien dignitaries, their voices a low hiss of disapproval. "You lost how many ships?" demanded a senator with scaled skin and 4 eyes. Kalis did not flinch. 8 cruisers, 3 destroyers, and 2 carriers. "The Terrans are more dangerous than we expected. They must be crushed before they can become a real threat." The Senate roared with laughter. "Crushed? They are a single species on a single world," said another senator. "You call them dangerous because they destroyed a few ships?" Kalis' eyes glowed brighter. "They fight with a fury I have not seen in centuries. They learn fast. If we wait, they will only grow stronger." But the Senate was not convinced. They approved only a limited pacification fleet, not the full mobilization Kalis requested. As he left the hall, Kalis felt uneasy. He had seen the way the Terrans fought. He knew this war would not be simple. Back on Earth, Elena visited the orbital shipyards. Massive battleships floated in dry dock, half complete but already beautiful. Young recruits were lining up to join the Defense Force, their faces full of determination. "You've started something," Admiral Harlan said as he joined her. "When you refused to surrender, you gave humanity a choice, and we've made it." Elena looked out the viewport at the growing fleet. "We don't know how many more of them are out there," she said quietly. "Then we build enough to make them think twice," Harlan replied. Weeks turned into months. The first new dreadnoughts rolled out of the yards. Squadrons of interceptors drilled relentlessly in the asteroid belt. Colonies that had never seen war before now had planetary defense grids. Humanity was no longer just exploring the stars. Humanity was preparing for war. And far away, deep in Imperial space, Admiral Kalis gathered his personal fleet. He would not underestimate the Terrans again. The first Imperial war fleet arrived without warning. 60 ships emerged from FTL at the edge of the Terran frontier, their formation perfect, their weapons charged. It was supposed to be a quick campaign. Destroy a few stations, capture a colony or two, and frighten humanity into surrender. But the Terrans were ready. At a small mining station near Proxima Centauri, alarms blared as Imperial ships appeared on scanners. The station crew had minutes to evacuate before the first plasma bolts vaporized the outpost. But the attack was not as easy as the Empire expected. The moment they fired, dozens of Terran drone swarms launched from hidden hangars in the asteroid belt, striking at the Imperial fleet's flanks. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship, Admiral Kalis narrowed his eyes. "Interest." "Ting," he muttered. "They were waiting for us." The drones were small, fast, and carried kinetic warheads. They tore through several Imperial destroyers before the fleet could adapt. Kalis ordered a tighter formation and pressed forward. On Mars, the Terran Defense Force scrambled its new squadrons of interceptors. Pilots climbed into their cockpits, hearts pounding, ready to defend their homeworlds. Remember your training. Commander Aiden's voice came through the comms. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and keep moving. Do not let them lock onto you. The first major battle took place in orbit over Mars. Imperial cruisers appeared in formation, raining plasma fire down on the Terran fleet. The sky above Mars lit up with fire as the two sides clashed. Terran railguns fired at near light speed, punching holes through Imperial shields. Interceptors darted between massive capital ships, launching guided missiles at exposed engines. Kalis watched the battle unfold with growing respect. The Terrans fought like predators, striking weak points, using the planet's magnetic field to hide their ships, and never staying still long enough to be pinned down. But the Empire had numbers. For every Imperial ship destroyed, more poured through the FTL corridor. Slowly, painfully, the Terran fleet was pushed back toward the planet. Sir, their landing craft are moving in, a sensor officer reported. Aiden's voice was grim. Then we stopped them here. The Terrans executed a desperate maneuver. A single dreadnought, the TDS Resolute, jumped directly into low orbit between Mars and the Imperial landing forces. Its railguns fired point-blank, shredding the incoming transports before they could deploy troops. Imperial fire ripped into the dreadnought, tearing its armor apart. But the Resolute held its ground long enough to destroy the enemy command ship. When the Imperial flagship exploded in a ball of fire, the entire fleet hesitated. For the first time, the Empire's forces broke formation and retreated. Across Mars, cheers erupted. The Terrans had held the line. The first Imperial invasion had been stopped. Kalis stood on the bridge of his remaining carrier, his expression dark. He had lost more ships than he expected, and he knew why. The Terrans had learned from every battle, adapting faster than the Empire could respond. This is no ordinary war, he told his officers. They are not just defending, they are becoming stronger. Back on Earth, Elena walked through a hospital filled with wounded soldiers. She saw young recruits missing limbs, engineers covered in burns, pilots who had barely survived their eject sequences. They paid the price, Admiral Harlan said quietly as he stood beside her. But they won us time. Time, that was humanity's greatest weapon. Every ship they lost was rebuilt with improvements. Every defeat taught them something new. Railguns were upgraded. Drones became smarter. Armor became stronger. Soon the Terrans went on the offensive. Small strike groups jumped deep into Imperial space, targeting supply depots and communication relays. Entire Imperial convoys vanished, destroyed by hit-and-run raids. The galaxy began to whisper about the humans, about how they turned every battle into a lesson, every skirmish into a trap. Kalis requested full mobilization from the Senate. This time they approved it. The Empire was at war, but as the Imperial fleets prepared to crush humanity once and for all, rebel factions across the galaxy took notice. If the mighty Empire could be hurt, maybe it could be defeated. Small uprisings began to appear on distant worlds. Humanity had not only survived, and it had inspired others, and somewhere deep in space, Admiral Kalis stared at a star map of Sol and whispered to himself, "They will not stop, and neither will we." Months passed since the Battle of Mars, but the fires of war had only grown. Terran shipyards glowed bright day and night, building new cruisers, destroyers, and drones. Humanity was no longer just defending. Humanity was preparing to strike back. In the research labs of Luna, scientists worked on something extraordinary, a new generation of FTL drives built by reverse engineering Imperial wreckage. "This will let us jump faster than they can," said Dr. Talia Kaur, chief engineer. "We can appear behind their lines before they even detect us." Soon the first prototype ship, the TDS Horizon, was ready. Its maiden jump was a success, covering a distance in hours that normally took days. For the first time, humanity had the speed advantage. Admiral Harlan wasted no time. He ordered small, fast fleets to strike deep into Imperial territory. Supply stations vanished overnight. Weapon factories went dark. The Empire found itself chasing shadows, their massive fleets too slow to catch the Terran raiders. Meanwhile, morale across the galaxy began to shift. On distant slave worlds, whispers spread. The humans fight the Empires and they win. Small rebellions sparked. Outposts that had been quiet for centuries suddenly refused Imperial orders. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Kalis watched the growing chaos with unease. The Terrans were no longer just an enemy. They were becoming a symbol of defiance. "They are inspiring uprisings across 3 sectors," one of his officers reported. Kalis nodded grimly. "If this continues, the entire outer rim will burn. The Senate will not tolerate this much longer." The Senate was already furious. They ordered Kalis to crush the Terrans completely, no matter the cost. They even authorized the use of the solar spear, a massive planet-killer weapon not used in centuries. But Kalis hesitated. Over the months of battle, he had grown to respect the humans. They fought with courage, with cleverness, and with a fire he had never seen in any other species. Destroying their homeworld felt wrong, even for an Imperial admiral. In secret, Kalis sent a coded message to Terran Command. The transmission reached Captain Elena Ward, who had returned to service after recovering from her injuries. "He's warning us," Aiden asked in disbelief as he read the message. "Yes," Elena said. "The Empire is preparing to send their largest fleet ever, and they're bringing a weapon that could destroy Earth itself." Admiral Harlan immediately called an emergency meeting. "If this is true, we have one chance to stop them," he said. "We need to gather every ship we have, every dreadnought, every drone, every platform, and meet them before they reach Sol." The plan was risky. Humanity would be outnumbered at least 5-1, but if they could hold long enough, the new FTL fleet could arrive and trap the Imperial Armada. Weeks later, the Terran Defense Force assembled near the edge of the solar system. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever fielded. Massive dreadnoughts floated alongside carriers and cruisers. Clouds of drones orbited like a metallic swarm. On the day of the final jump, silence filled the bridge of the horizon. Elena stood beside Aiden, her hands clenched behind her back. "This is it," she said quietly. Then the Imperial fleet appeared. Hundreds, no thousands, of ships formed a wall of metal and fire. The sheer size of it made even the bravest Terran officers pause. On the Imperial flagship, Kalis stared at the Terran formation. "They are fewer than we expected," his second-in-command said. Kalis's golden eyes narrowed. "Do not be fooled. They always have more waiting." The battle began with a roar. Imperial ships advanced in perfect formation, firing plasma salvos that lit up the void. Terran railguns answered. Each shot a spear of light tearing through shields. The first line of Terran ships took heavy losses, but they did not break. Then, at the perfect moment, dozens of hidden Terran platforms powered up in the asteroid belt. Massive rail batteries opened fire, striking the Imperial fleet from the flanks. Kalis realized too late what had happened. The humans had turned the entire sector into a trap. Even as the battle raged, rebel forces across the galaxy launched simultaneous uprisings, stretching Imperial resources thin. For the first time in centuries, the Empire faced war on multiple fronts. On the bridge of the horizon, Elena's eyes narrowed. "This is the moment," she said. "Signal the reinforcements." Far away, the colony fleets began their jumps. Humanity's true strength was about to arrive. And somewhere deep inside, Kalis felt something unusual. Fear. The void beyond Sol burned with light. Hundreds of Terran ships held formation against the approaching Imperial fleet. Admiral Kalis's golden eyes scanned the horizon. The enemy was fewer than he had expected, yet the humans' calm precision unnerved him. "They are waiting for something," his first officer said. "Perhaps reinforcements." Kalis' jaw tightened. "Does not matter. We destroy them before anything else arrives." On the Terran side, Captain Elena Ward stood on the bridge of the TDS horizon, staring at the Imperial fleet. Every ship in the fleet was a part of humanity's calculated plan. For weeks they had prepared, hiding dozens of hidden fleets in the asteroid belt among gas clouds and behind moons. The Imperial fleet did not know what they were about to face. Then it began. At Elena's command, the hidden fleets activated. Suddenly, the asteroid belt and the nearby moons erupted with movement. Hundreds of dreadnoughts, carriers, and drone swarms appeared as if from nowhere, surrounding the Imperial fleet on all sides. Railguns flared, striking massive Imperial cruisers at points they could not defend. Wait, that wasn't their whole army. One Imperial captain gasped over comms before his ship disintegrated in a brilliant flash of light. The humans had saved their strongest forces for the decisive moment. Every maneuver, every retreat had been part of a greater plan. Imperial ships found themselves trapped between hidden Terran batteries and the main fleet. On Mars, the human planetary defense grids were fully active. Missile swarms and automated drones reinforced the attack from space. The Empire's enormous numbers became a liability. Their formations could not adjust fast enough to avoid collisions, attacks, and traps. Elena's fleet moved like a single organism. Small squads darted between larger ships, firing coordinated volleys to confuse the enemy. Drones swarmed over weakened cruisers, cutting through shields and armor with unrelenting precision. Terran carriers launched waves of fighters, striking at the Imperial supply lines and command ships. Admiral Kalis ordered a retreat.
"Pull back! Fall back!"
he bellowed, but the humans anticipated it. Terran dreadnoughts jumped behind their path, cutting off escape routes. The Imperial fleet became a death trap, trapped in a net they could not escape. The first major Imperial flagship exploded, sending shockwaves that shook nearby vessels. Panic spread. Terran railguns and drones picked off stragglers, and within hours, a majority of the Imperial fleet was either destroyed or retreating in disarray. On the horizon, Elena allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had not just won a battle. They had reshaped the war. The galaxy had witnessed the Terrans' strength and strategy, and none could ignore it. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, rebel factions that had long lived in fear of the Empire rose. Occupied worlds declared independence. Alien colonies that had been enslaved or oppressed began dismantling Imperial control structures. Humanity had not only survived the war, they had become a symbol of hope. Admiral Kalis watched his remaining ships regroup. His expression was conflicted. He had fought bravely, yet he could not deny the humans' ingenuity and courage. For the first time in his life, he realized that the Empire could lose, and it would be because of one species that refused to bow. In orbit above Earth, celebrations erupted. Millions cheered as news of the victory spread. Humanity had not only defended its home but had revealed its full strength. Their fight was no longer just for survival. It was for recognition, for independence, and for the future of every Terran colony. Elena walked across the bridge after the battle. Aiden joined her, his eyes reflecting the lights of the distant stars. "They will regroup," he said quietly. "Let them," Elena replied. "We will be ready. And next time, they will know exactly what humanity can do." For the first time, the galaxy understood. Humanity was not just a species. Humanity was a force, clever, resourceful, relentless, and united. The Terrans had survived every expectation, and the legend of their courage would spread to every corner of the stars. Admiral Kalis sent a final message to the Terran command, not of threat but of acknowledgement. "You are stronger than we imagined. The Empire will remember you." Elena read it aloud to her crew. "Let them remember," she said, "because we are not done yet. Humanity is only getting started." And in the dark expanse of space, the Terran fleet stood tall. The galaxy had finally seen the truth. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were conquerors of impossible odds, and nothing would ever make the universe fear them less.